Hello, everybody. This is Patrick from 8-Bit Doodads with a new series for you. This one's on Tandy for SepTandy. A little bit different from our usual Apple II or Commodore 64 videos. This one concentrating on another great old 8-bit machine. And this is a great series for us to kick off this month, which is in celebration of the Tandy computers.
Say, kids, what time is it?
It's 8-Bit Doodads time!
Now, this particular machine is a Tandy Model 4P, and this was actually given to me by a fellow member of the Florida Retro Computer Group, John Krupenbeck, and his wife Chrissy. Actually met up with me here in Vero Beach and gifted me with this machine as well as some software that runs on it. I've been a Tandy fan back in my early days. In fact, when I was in high school, one of the first machines I ever used was a Tandy Model 3. In fact, we had a lab full of Tandy Model 3s, all connected through what Tandy had was their network controller, which was actually cabling all their the cassette ports of the various machines to one Tandy machine that had floppy drives. All the rest of the machines had no floppies, they just had memory, but allowed us to save and load programs from that central master. I later came across in college, we had Tandy 3s in a lab that people could use. And in fact, one of my favorite machines of all times, my mother got at her business, was a Tandy Model 2 that had the big 8-inch floppy drives. Ran script and profile, and they had one of the first time I'd seen it was a daisy wheel printer that clattered and shook and made more noise than I had ever heard in a printer in my life. But it was actually a pretty wonderful machine. So today we're just going to do a quick intro of the Tandy Model 4P, and I want to talk about what I want to do with this later in this series for SepTandy. The Model 4P was a portable version of the Tandy Model 4, which was sort of an all-in-one unit. It had a keyboard and a screen built out and had two floppy drives oriented this way. This one's a little bit smaller screen size. It does have two floppies, and you saw I took the cover off. This has a handle on the back and can be toted around. At this time when this came out, this is what portables were considered. At the same time, you would have had things like the Osborne or the K-Pro, which were, and I think the other term was luggables, were as big as the size of this. Had a full keyboard. One of the things you notice on these old vintage computers, the keyboards were not as expansive as what we're used to on a PC today. In fact, if you think about an Apple II, it had no function keys. This thing does have 3 function keys. The Commodore 64 had 4, and I think you could hold shift and you actually could get 8 function keys. But a lot of these earlier computers didn't have that. In fact, they used the control key and pressing other keys to give you special operations, special menu operations or control codes. One of the things that's unique about the 4P over all the other machines is the ROM built into this allowed it to boot not just from a floppy, but to an externally connected hard drive. And Tandy did make at this time external hard drives, and in fact, if any of you seen a picture of it, they had very large 8-inch platter hard drives that work with the Model 2 and Model 16, but they also ran with the Model 3s and the Model 4s. The problem with the standard Model 3 and 4 is even if you had a hard drive connected, you still need a floppy disk, and you had to boot from that, and once you booted from that, you could connect to the hard drive. The Model 4P portable was special in that it could auto boot from a hard drive. And being a storage guy, which you may have seen in some of my previous videos, I'm very interested in that. And in fact, to that end, and this is where this series is going to go, I bought what's called the FreHD. I call it the Fred, but it's FREHD. This is a complete hard drive emulator that works with the Model 3 or the Model 4 and plugs into the standard external bus that was available on the 3 or 4. So that gives you a hard drive that uses an SD card interface. So this could emulate hard drives for this machine, and on a 4P specifically, it can auto boot from this. One of the other reasons I was very interested in this particular emulator is they not only had images for LDOS, which was a kind of clone of TRS-DOS but had enhancements, and LDOS had functions, added functionality into it that was tuned to work with hard drives and partitions and storing files on and accessing those kind of disks. But this thing also can work with CP/M. And one of the things about the Model 4 versus the Model 3 is the Model 4 had 64K of memory and versus 48K in a Model 3. These could run CP/M natively since they had Z80 chips, and with the full memory map, they were actually designed, and there were CP/M variants that were built for these machines. And the FreHD people actually included a CD-ROM that has images for both LDOS to work with this and also CP/M. With CP/M, we can run things like WordStar or DBase 2 or what have you. And that's what I want to explore with this machine. I want to set it up and run standard TRS-DOS and BASIC and show you how that works, but then go for deeper and show us how we can get the hard drive to work and running both LDOS, which is a TRS-DOS clone, and running CP/M. So stay tuned for those videos in SepTandy. If you like this video, click that thumb up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already so you can get notified of the future videos in this series.